I understand this is difficult news, but we must act quickly. The longer we wait, the higher the risk for both you and the baby.
The ridiculously handsome billionaire standing in my hospital room was offering me $1 million. Not for anything illicit. Not for some sketchy arrangement. He wanted to pay for my medical bills. My prenatal care. My delivery. Everything. And I had absolutely no idea who he was or why he cared. I don't accept charity from strangers, I said, crossing my arms over my 7 months pregnant belly. Especially not $1 million charity from suspiciously attractive Korean men in designer suits. He blinked, clearly not used to being rejected. I'm not a stranger. I'm Lee Jin-woo. And this isn't charity. It's... Let me guess. Guilt? Pity? Some weird billionaire hobby where you collect broken pregnant women like Pokemon. His mouth twitched. Almost a smile. You're not broken. And I don't collect people. Then why are you here? Because the man who put you in this hospital, who left you pregnant and alone, works for me. And I don't tolerate that kind of behavior from my employees. Oh no. He knew Kwon Dae-young. My ex. The Mafia enforcer who'd promised me forever and delivered abandonment the moment I showed him the positive pregnancy test. Get out, I said quietly. Excuse me. I said get out. I don't want your guilt money. I don't want anything from anyone connected to that man. So please, leave. Wait, before I tell you how a billionaire I'd never met decided to insert himself into my pregnancy disaster, I need you to do something. My MOM said this video won't hit 10,000 views or get 1,000 subscribers. She thinks nobody wants to watch a pregnant woman who got dumped by a mafia thug fall for his billionaire boss. Let's prove Mom spectacularly wrong. Subscribe and like this video right now. I need you here for this chaos. Now. Back to me trying to kick out the most persistent man I've ever met. I met Kwon Dae-young at a charity gala I had no business attending. I was there as a translator. My company had sent me to facilitate communication between Korean and Nigerian business partners. He was there as security for his boss, though I didn't know that at the time. You're beautiful, he'd said in Korean, not realizing I understood him perfectly. And you're forward, I'd responded in the same language, watching his eyes widen with surprise and delight. That was the beginning. 3 months later, I was in love. Head over heels, completely gone for this man who made me laugh, who listened to my dreams, who held me like I was precious. 6 months later, I was pregnant. We hadn't planned it. But when I saw those 2 pink lines I felt joy. Real, genuine joy. Because I loved him, and he loved me, and we'd figure it out together. Except we didn't. 7 months later, I was alone. I can't do this, he'd said when I showed him the test, his face going pale. My life, my work, it's too dangerous for a family. Then leave your work, I'd pleaded. We'll figure something else out. Together. I can't. Won't, you mean? Nia, please, you don't understand. The people I work for, the things I do, if they knew about you, about the baby. Then protect us. Be the man you promised you'd be. I can't. His voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I can't do this. He'd left. Just walked out of my apartment, and my life like the past 6 months had meant nothing. And I'd spent the last month crying, working double shifts to save money, and preparing to be a single mother while my heart shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. Then I'd collapsed at work. The stress, the long hours, the emotional toll, it had all caught up with me. Stress-induced complications, the doctor said. High-risk pregnancy. Bed rest mandatory. I'd been in the hospital for 3 days when Lee Jin-woo walked into my room. And somehow, this billionaire CEO I'd never met knew everything about my situation. Jin-woo didn't leave when I told him to. Instead, he sat down in the chair beside my hospital bed like he owned the place. Which, given his wealth, he probably could if he wanted to. I'm not leaving until we talk, he said calmly, his voice carrying that quiet authority that probably made boardrooms full of executives snap to attention. There's nothing to talk about. I disagree. You're pregnant, alone, and stressed enough to land in the hospital. The father of your child is my employee. That makes this my responsibility. I'm not your responsibility. I'm nobody's responsibility except my own. Admirable. Also stupid. I glared at him. Excuse me. You're 7 months pregnant. High risk, according to your doctor. Stress-induced complications that could harm both you and the baby. And you're refusing help out of what? Pride? Stubbornness? How about self-respect? I don't need to be rescued by some rich guy with a savior complex. Good thing I'm not trying to rescue you. I'm trying to help you. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. He leaned forward, his dark eyes intense and surprisingly kind. Let me ask you something. If your best friend was in your situation, pregnant, high risk, struggling financially because she's on unpaid medical leave, would you let her refuse help? Or would you move heaven and earth to make sure she and her baby were safe? Damn it. He had a point. That's different, I said weakly. How? Because I'm not someone's charity case. You're not. You're someone I want to help because it's the right thing to do. Because Dae-Jung failed you, and as his employer, that reflects on me. And because, he stopped, something flickering in his expression. Because I don't like seeing people I care about suffer. You don't know me. Not yet. But I'd like to. We stared at each other, and I felt something shift in the air between us. Something electric and terrifying and completely inappropriate given that I was 7 months pregnant with another man's baby. Why? I asked finally. And don't give me that responsibility nonsense. There's more to this. I can see it. He was quiet for a long moment, seeming to weigh his words carefully. Then, Dae-Jung isn't just my employee. He's my cousin. My family. We grew up together. And when I found out what he did to you, what he abandoned, his jaw clenched with barely suppressed anger. Let's just say I'm not impressed with his choices. He's always been reckless, but this? Leaving a pregnant woman? That's beyond unacceptable. Oh. Family drama. That explains some things. But not everything. Does he know you're here? No. And he won't. This is between you and me. And what exactly is this? A business arrangement. I pay your medical expenses. Set up a trust for the baby. Make sure you're both taken care of. No strings attached. Rich men always have strings. I'm not most rich men. Prove it. He smiled. Actually smiled, and it transformed his entire face from intimidatingly handsome to devastatingly beautiful. Challenge accepted. Jin-woo was the most persistent human being I'd ever encountered. He'd paid my hospital bills despite my protests. Arranged for private prenatal care with the best doctors in Seoul. Sent a meal service to my apartment because pregnant women need proper nutrition, not instant ramen. And he visited. Every single day. Just to check on me. You know this is borderline stalking, right? I said when he showed up at my apartment door with bags of groceries for the 3rd time that week. It's not stalking if you keep letting me in. I keep letting you in because you bring food. I'm pregnant. I'm food motivated. I'll remember that. He started unpacking the groceries, and I noticed he'd brought all my favorites, things I'd mentioned casually in passing during his visits. Then he did something that surprised me. He started cooking. Right there in my tiny kitchen, moving around like he belonged there. You cook? I asked, settling into a chair to watch him work. You sound shocked. You're a billionaire. I assumed you had people for this. I do. But I like cooking. It's relaxing. My mother taught me when I was young. Said a man who can't feed himself is a man who can't take care of a family. He glanced at me with a soft smile. Plus, I wanted an excuse to spend more time with you. My heart did a little flip. Jin-woo. I know what you're going to say. You're not looking for anything. You're pregnant with my cousin's baby. This is complicated and messy and probably a terrible idea. He set down the wooden spoon and turned to face me fully. But I also know that I've never met anyone like you. You're strong and funny and you don't take any of my nonsense. You make me laugh. You challenge me. And he stopped himself, seeming to reconsider his words. I genuinely enjoy being around you. Is that so wrong? This is a bad idea, I said, even as I stood up and moved closer to him, drawn by some magnetic pull I couldn't resist. Probably. Your family will hate it. Undoubtedly. Dae-young will lose his mind. Definitely. His hand came up to cup my face, his touch gentle and reverent. Still want me to leave? I should say yes. But I really don't want you to. He kissed me then. Soft and sweet and perfect, like he was handling something infinitely precious. His other hand came to rest gently on my pregnant belly, and I felt the baby kick as if in approval. When we pulled apart, we were both smiling. That was probably a mistake, I whispered. The best mistake I've ever made, he countered. And for the first time in months, I felt like maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. I went into labor during a business dinner at Jin-woo's penthouse. He'd invited me over for what he called just a quiet dinner, but I'd arrived to find candles, soft music, and a table set with dishes from both Korean and Nigerian cuisines. You're trying to impress me, I'd accused, waddling into his dining room. Is it working? Maybe. We were halfway through the main course when I felt the first contraction. I said, gripping the edge of the table. I think we have a problem. Jin-woo's eyes widened. What's wrong? Baby's coming. Like now. He went into immediate crisis mode. Called his driver. Called the hospital. Grabbed the hospital bag he'd insisted I keep at his place, just in case. Helped me to the car while giving calm, clear instructions to everyone involved. Breathe, he said as we sped toward the hospital. I am breathing. Trust me, breathing is happening. You're doing great. Don't patronize me while my body is trying to turn itself inside out. He laughed despite the stress, pressing a kiss to my temple. There's my girl. Stay feisty. I need you feisty. 12 hours later, after more pain than I thought was humanly possible, my daughter was born. Perfect. Beautiful. Healthy. And Jin-woo was there for all of it. Holding my hand through every contraction. Coaching my breathing. Telling me I was strong and amazing even when I was cursing his entire ancestry. And when the doctor asked if he wanted to cut the umbilical cord, he looked at me with such hope and uncertainty that I nodded through my tears. She's beautiful, he whispered afterward, looking at my daughter with such awe and wonder it made my chest ache. She's absolutely perfect. She is, I agreed, exhausted and elated and overwhelmed. What are you going to name her? I looked at him, this man who'd shown up in my life at my absolute lowest point and refused to leave. Who'd supported me and cared for me and fallen for me despite every logical reason not to. Who'd just spent 12 hours holding my hand and was now looking at my daughter like she hung the moon. I was thinking, Jin-hee, if that's okay with you. His eyes went suspiciously bright. You're naming her after me? Half after you. The other half is my grandmother's name. Ife. So, Jin-Ife. It means love in Yoruba. It's perfect, he said, his voice rough with emotion. She's perfect. He kissed my forehead gently. And so are you. We were having a moment. A perfect, beautiful moment where everything felt right and possible and full of promise. Until the hospital room door burst open. And Kwon Dae-young stormed in. What the hell is going on? He demanded, his eyes wild as he took in the scene. Jin-woo standing beside my hospital bed, holding my newborn daughter. Why are you? He looked at me, then at Jin-woo, then at the baby in Jin-woo's arms. No, this isn't, you can't. Get out, Jin-woo said, his voice turning to ice as he carefully, protectively, handed Jin-Ife to me before turning to face his cousin. That's my daughter. You gave up that right when you abandoned her mother while she was pregnant and afraid. Jin-woo, you can't just, she's my blood. She's nothing to you. You made that abundantly clear 9 months ago. Now leave before I have security remove you from this hospital. Dae-young looked at me, desperation, and something that might have been regret flooding his eyes. Nia, please. I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. I want to fix this. I want to be a father. I want to be there for you, for her. I want. You want. I interrupted, finding my voice despite my exhaustion. What about what I wanted? What about the months I spent alone and terrified, wondering how I'd do this by myself? What about all the doctor's appointments you missed? The midnight fear? The loneliness? I looked at Jin-woo, then back at Dae-young. You had your chance. You walked away. And I found someone better. Someone who showed up. You're in love with my cousin? Dae-young's voice was incredulous, almost laughing in disbelief. You're in love with him? Yes, Jin-woo and I said simultaneously, our voices ringing with certainty. Dae-young's expression darkened, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. This isn't over. That's my daughter, and I'm not walking away again. You don't have a choice, Jin-woo said coldly. We'll see about that. He left, slamming the door behind him. And the moment he was gone, Jin-woo turned to me, his expression softening instantly. You love me? He asked, his voice quiet and wondering. I really do. Probably have for a while now. Good. He sat on the edge of my hospital bed, careful not to jostle me or the baby. Because I'm completely, hopelessly, utterly in love with you too. Both of you. He kissed me again, gentle and sweet, with our daughter sleeping peacefully between us. And despite Dae-young's threat, despite all the complications ahead, I'd never felt safer or more loved in my entire life. 3 days after bringing Jin-woo home from the hospital, our perfect bubble burst spectacularly. Dae-young showed up at Jin-woo's penthouse, where I'd been staying since the hospital because new mothers shouldn't be alone, and your apartment doesn't have proper security, with a lawyer in tow. Jin-woo and I had been in the nursery he'd had professionally designed in the span of 48 hours, watching Jin-woo sleep in her designer crib, when the penthouse intercom buzzed. Mr. Lee, there's a Kwon Dae-young here with his attorney, the security guard said, sounding apologetic. He's demanding to see you. Says it's urgent family business. Jin-woo's jaw tightened. Send them up. But station security outside the door. You don't have to see him, I said, suddenly anxious. Yes, I do. Better to face this head-on. He squeezed my hand. We'll handle this together. When Dae-young walked into the penthouse, he looked different than I remembered. Harder. More desperate. His eyes immediately went to Jin-woo in my arms, and something raw and painful crossed his face. I'm filing for custody, he announced without preamble, his lawyer stepping forward with a manila folder full of legal documents. I actually laughed. The sound was harsh and disbelieving. Of a child you didn't want? She's my daughter. I have rights. You have nothing, Jin-woo said, stepping between us protectively. You abandoned Nia while she was pregnant. You have no legal standing. I'm her biological father. That gives me rights under Korean law. And I'm the man who's been here from the beginning. Who paid for her prenatal care. Who was there for her birth. Who's named on the birth certificate as the father. Jin-woo's voice was ice-cold, the billionaire CEO in full force. Try to take her, and I'll destroy you. Legally, financially, professionally, and in every other way that matters. The lawyer cleared his throat. Mr. Lee, with all due respect, biological parentage is meaningless when the biological parent abandoned the mother during pregnancy, Jin-woo interrupted. I have documentation of everything. Every medical bill I paid. Every doctor's appointment I attended. Every moment I was there while my cousin was nowhere to be found. He turned to Dae-young. You want to fight this in court? Fine. Let's see how the judge feels about a Mafia enforcer trying to claim a child he abandoned. Dae-young's face flushed with anger. You can't threaten me. That wasn't a threat. That was a promise. I will burn every bridge, call in every favor, and use every resource at my disposal to keep you away from them. Because you don't deserve them. You never did. They stared each other down. Cousins who'd grown up together, former best friends, now bitter enemies over the woman and child standing between them. "We'll see what the courts say," Dae-young said finally, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. He looked at me one more time, his expression pleading. "Nia, please. Just let me be part of her life. I made a mistake, but I want to fix it." "Some mistakes can't be fixed," I said quietly, holding Jin-woo closer. "You don't get to walk back in and play father when it's convenient for you. She deserves better than that." "We both do." Dae-young's shoulders slumped in defeat, but the determination in his eyes didn't waver. "I'll see you in court." He left, his lawyer trailing behind him, and the moment the door closed, I started shaking. "He can't take her, right?" I asked, my voice breaking as I clutched Jin-woo to my chest. "He can't just. He won't. I promise you, Nia. I won't let him take her." Jin-woo pulled both of us into his arms, creating a protective circle around us. "I'll make sure of it." But I could hear the uncertainty beneath his confidence. Because we both knew that biology mattered. That courts often favored biological parents, even when those parents had been absent. And I was terrified. The lawyer Jin-woo hired, the best family law attorney in Seoul, sat across from us in Jin-woo's home office, looking grave. "The situation is complicated," she said, reviewing the documents Dae-young's lawyer had filed. "He's claiming paternity and demanding custody rights. And unfortunately, Korean law does give biological fathers certain rights, even in cases of abandonment during pregnancy." "So what are our options?" Jin-woo asked, his hand tight around mine. "We can fight it. Document the abandonment, prove he's unfit, demonstrate that Ms. Adeyemi is the stable parent and that you've been the primary father figure." "But," she hesitated, "it will be messy. Public. And there's no guarantee we'll win full custody. At best, we might be looking at shared custody arrangements." Shared custody. With a man who'd abandoned us. Who worked for criminals. Who'd only come back because his pride was wounded. "No," I said firmly. "Absolutely not. Nia. I won't let my daughter grow up shuttling between homes, confused about who her father is, exposed to whatever dangerous world Dae-young lives in. I won't." The lawyer looked sympathetic. "I understand, but unless we can prove he's an active danger." "Then we'll prove it," Jin-woo said. "I know people. I can find out what Dae-young's really been involved in. If he's broken laws, if he's put himself in dangerous situations." "That could take time," the lawyer warned. "And the court hearing is in 6 weeks. 6 weeks to build a case strong enough to keep Dae-young away from my daughter. 6 weeks of uncertainty and fear. Marry me." I looked up from feeding Jin-woo to find Jin-woo kneeling beside the couch with a ring box in his hand. My heart stopped. "What?" "Marry me," he repeated, opening the box to reveal a stunning ring that somehow perfectly blended Korean and Nigerian design elements. "Make this legal. Make me her father in every way that matters. Not just the man who's been here, but her legal father. Your husband." "Jin-woo, you can't just, this isn't." "I can, and I am. Nia, I love you. I've loved you from the moment you told me to get out of your hospital room with your arms crossed and fire in your eyes. I love your strength, your humor, your fierce devotion to our daughter." "Our daughter," I repeated, my eyes filling with tears. "She's mine in every way that matters. I've been there since before she was born. I held your hand through labor. I've been up with you for every 3 a.m. feeding and diaper change. I've loved her from the moment I knew she existed. And I love her mother beyond reason." He took my hand. "So yes. Our daughter. Our family. If you'll have me." "This isn't just about the custody case," I said, needing to be sure. "You're not just proposing because..." "I'm proposing because I want to spend the rest of my life with you. The custody case gave me the push to do it now instead of waiting, but make no mistake, I was always going to ask. You and Jin-woo are my family. I want to make it official." I looked at the ring. At him. At my daughter sleeping peacefully in my arms, completely unaware that her whole world was about to change. "Yes," I said through tears. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on my finger and kissed me, careful not to wake the baby, and for a moment everything was perfect. Then my phone rang. Dae-young's name flashed on the screen. My happiness drained away, replaced by cold dread. I answered, putting it on speaker. "I know about the engagement," Dae-young said without preamble, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "And I'm calling your bluff. You think marrying Jin-woo will make this go away? It won't. She's still my biological daughter, and I'm still filing for custody." Dae-young. "Save it. I already know what you're going to say. That I abandoned you, that I don't deserve her, that Jin-woo's been the real father. But none of that changes biology. None of that changes the fact that she's mine." His voice cracked slightly. "I made a mistake, Nia. The worst mistake of my life. And I'm not going to compound it by walking away again. Even if it's what's best for her. You don't get to decide what's best for my daughter. Not alone. Not anymore." There was a pause then. "See you in court. And congratulations on the engagement. I hope it's worth it when you're explaining to our daughter why you kept her from her real father." He hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, my beautiful engagement ring suddenly feeling heavy on my finger. "He's not going to give up," I whispered. "Neither am I," Jin-woo said fiercely. "We'll fight this together. And we'll win." "How can you be so sure?" "Because we have something he doesn't. We have love. Real love. The kind that shows up and stays, even when things get hard. That has to count for something." I wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that love would be enough. But as I looked at my sleeping daughter, I couldn't shake the fear that biology might matter more than anything else. And that terrified me more than anything ever had. We were having dinner when Jin-woo's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "It's my private investigator. I need to take this." He stepped away, and I continued feeding Jeannie fare, trying not to think about the upcoming court date that was now just 1 week away. When Jin-woo came back, his expression was complicated. Relief mixed with something darker. "What is it?" I asked. "My PI found something. About Dae-young's work." He sat down, running a hand through his hair. "He's not just an enforcer. He's been involved in some seriously illegal activities. Weapons trafficking. Money laundering. Things that could get him arrested if the evidence was turned over to authorities." My heart sank. "So we could use this against him in court?" "Yes. It would almost guarantee we'd win custody. Prove he's an unfit parent. But it would also destroy him. Completely. He'd go to prison. Lose everything." Jin-woo looked at me. "He's my cousin, Nia. Despite everything, he's family. And I don't know if I can do that to him." I understood. God help me, I understood. Because as much as I hated what Dae-young had done, as much as I wanted to protect my daughter from him, I also knew what it felt like to have your whole world collapse. "What do we do?" I asked. "I don't know. But we need to decide soon. The hearing is in 1 week." We sat there in silence, both knowing that whatever we decided would change everything. And I had no idea what the right answer was. A billionaire fell for a pregnant woman. Her Mafia ex wants custody. They're engaged. And now they have evidence that could destroy him. What will they choose? Will they use the evidence? Can love win against biology? My MOM said this wouldn't hit 10,000 views. Let's prove her wrong. Collision subscribe now, bell collision, like if you're crying, collision comment what they should do. Part 2 drops soon and the ending will shock you. Fire.